I'm going to start by actually reading. I'm going to do a fair amount of it, but not too much. I'm going to show some things also. But the first thing I'd like to read is a text that I was invited to write a while ago, and I kept putting it off. It's called On Writing. Writing has usually been fraught with difficulty for him. She can't quite say why, but she has given it some thought, particularly as she prepared to write this text. Even long before he encountered post-structuralist thought, he was filled with suspicions and doubts regarding the nature of writing and his place as a subject within it. Perhaps this has some relation to her origins as a Black Southern American, an English speaker, raised in the shadow of Jim Crow, yet often centered, or rather decentered from that language. He always felt a bit alienated from the languages he learned as a child. She has long believed that she had more to offer as a desiring or critical reading or editor than as a writer. In middle school, he once produced a term paper composed of photocopies of the research materials he had read, with a brief introduction. This gesture made her infamous with the administration and faculty of the school. The subject he chose was Black history, and he felt that the articles he encountered and read were more significant than any interpretation that he could possibly make of them. At the time, she believed that those materials were much more important than any other history that she had yet encountered. Many years ago, he attempted to write a few articles for a national art magazine, thankfully working under a brilliant writer and editor. The experience convinced her that she was much better as an editor or collagist of existing words than as an author. The massive cuts and resequencing that his efforts seemed to require convinced him that he basically didn't understand how a prose argument could be constructed. Earlier in school and at university, she felt that writing was largely regurgitation of existing material found elsewhere. Originality through textuality always seemed to escape him. She tried poetry for a time in her last 2 years of high school and her first year of college, but upon reflection, her efforts seemed tepid, as though her concepts always seemed to greatly exceed her abilities with written language. And he came to dislike the performativity and brinksmanship that felt endemic to the literary cultures of his youth. Around the same time that she decided to drop literature, she also decided to drop out of the university, studying film and television production. His first 2 years at college were mostly writing papers on film history and not producing very much media. What she had learned about media production in a mainstream industry context felt alienating and scary. He thought that he wanted to pursue something like what he imagined a conceptually informed artistic practice might be. Of course, she didn't really know much of anything about art and had no skills or disciplined interest in it. He enjoyed looking, reading, and thinking, and found himself intrigued by how art might be contextualized or argued into existence. She did have some limited experience with photography, and since she had absolutely no skill or interest in drawing, she found herself enrolled in a photo course at a community college in her hometown after dropping out. His teacher became a good friend and drinking companion, and he spent a year developing a portfolio of competent, formal black and white images of a specific class of industrial site, which eventually led into formal investigations of streetscapes, construction sites, architectural arrangements. Pretty soon thereafter, she applied to photo programs and managed to get admitted to multiple art schools. However, he wound up at a wacky liberal arts college. Instead, perhaps because he already sensed, but could not yet articulate, certain limitations with art, especially as it was being taught at the time. Early on, upon resuming her education, she made an aesthetic decision that put her at odds with most of her teachers and peers. He didn't want to be categorized which may appear to be relatively common. Yet beyond that, she didn't want to be a fine artist or a photojournalist. He was mainly particularly interested in how art practices interacted with society, and simply wanted to use photography in ways that mimicked and perhaps illuminated its diverse functions and meaning in a mediated culture. She became fascinated by the multiple contexts in which images could be found and how the same or generic image might produce myriad meanings depending on context. And this led him back to language and writing. She became interested in how words and images might function together as a way of questioning the relationships between text and image, text and context, image and caption, explanation and illustration, or form and content. He was not interested either in literature or art, but rather in certain productive confusions one might produce with or between allegedly known, separate forms. She was explicitly drawn to the neither nor between media. Over the last 2 years of his undergraduate education, he began to produce one-off books based on what he felt were different vernacular forms of image-text relations. Some might be considered poetic photonovellas, others hand-manipulated collages, others descriptive inventories or self-surveillance documentation. Writing was always present, but neither solely as literature, nor simply as description. Much later, when characterizing her media work, she would say that it was neither linear narrative nor logical argument, though tropes of both might appear displaced, quoted, fragmented, or cobbled together in new orders or complexes. The nascent forms of these later ideas might be traced to these early still image text works. Part of the thrill of deploying language was the discomfort his insistence on doing so seemed to provoke in others. She didn't quite understand why wanting to combine image and text, materials which could be found in any newspaper or magazine, would automatically be disqualified as art. And even if it was disqualified, he thought it was still worth doing because the work he desired to make was not the same as what one normally found in mass market publications, though it might borrow some similar forms and techniques. They were used for rather divergent ends. For her, the point of borrowing was not just to ventriloquize and repeat a familiar form, but rather to make it act or perform differently. This is probably why he came to value massive citation in a different context over any pretense to medium specificity or originality. After a number of years of making media essays combining archival footage, quoted text, and popular music, she decided to remove pictorial images from the equation to fully pressurize text and music. One of the reasons for this shift was possibly a desire to think with audiences about traumatic or commonplace images. And it seemed that it was more productive to engage the imaginations and memories of viewers without repeating familiar or disturbing images. He doesn't write very much these days. She used to think she did a decent job at describing her methods, process, or intentions. However, he's come to believe that his writing on those topics was perceived as being a bit dry and impersonal because, unlike in this text, he tends to avoid personal anecdotes. She has sometimes delegated this type of reading or writing to a third party, especially for grants where a personal narrative voice is expected. He has published a few texts about his work and its methods in specialized publications, but he finds them increasingly difficult to write. Lately, she's invited more often to do interviews. He actually likes to transcribe interviews or talks produced by others. She often prefers them to formal written texts. He does still write lectures and presentations about his work. She is glad that these tend to be mercifully short, and she tends to recompose and decompose them from previous talks over the course of a year or so, until she either gets tired of the retrofits or discovers a new approach or angle. Sometimes he gets specific requests for duration or aspects of his work to emphasize, which often are quite helpful. A few times written talks have evolved into works. She does regularly make notes about research and ideas for works in progress, including music playlists, but these are mainly for her own consumption. Sometimes these notes become an explicit part of his works, but not that often. And I'm going to show some slides with music. Some thoughts on anti-monumentality. I think I was a teenager when I first encountered those symbols of white supremacy and lost causes. It's hard to believe these statues began to be erected in 1890, years after the US Civil War, and stood for over 100 years in a part of town that was not part of my segregated early childhood. In my 20s, I proposed that the statues be buried on their site, and each indicated by a small circular brass marker describing the offensive object and some facts about it. I was against moving these works into a museum context for storage because I didn't want there to be any possibility of returning them to their original locations. Conversely, I opposed their dismantling or melting them, allowing a refabrication into other new sculptural objects, as some have recently suggested. I felt it might be better to just hide them in plain sight, to render them inaccessible. Making them literally non-visible seemed to me the most appropriate fate for these wishful racist thoughts materialized that became hateful projections into the fabric of what was my hometown. You might call my attitude a reaction to what I came to feel was an abuse of public space, which I find related to the ubiquitous domination in the US today of public space by advertising. My work uses conceptual and media forms to think about how daily life and historical events are commonly constructed, represented, and experienced. I sometimes say that my work reframes the documents, articles, or transcripts that one might find in a documentary, but arranged and structured differently. Text has long had a primary role in my work as a continuous flow, broken into more or less legible phrasing, or split up into individual words. There is often a complementarity or resistance between the form and speed of text presentation and its content. There is no single correct reading in my work. Reading is always a process, a series of passes with different permutations. I use text from different sources: journalism, cultural theory, art or music criticism, or political speeches. Sounds and sometimes pop songs are an important part of my practice. I explore how sound functions in an expansive, sometimes antagonistic, relation to visual and textual codes. I believe that the sonic register can and should be deployed to enhance and complicate minimal imagery, supplying nuanced affective possibilities and sometimes critical social context. You could say that sound often functions as a ghost in my work. I find the connections enabled through sound extremely productive, and I appreciate the ways the sonic contributes to and complicates the representation of histories and politics. I work in modules and fragments. Often installation forms are part of the trajectory of my work. Early on in my work, installations were productive contexts from which individual pieces were later drawn. But more often today, clusters of existing short works are spatialized and juxtaposed into installations. Spaces, whether inside the work, to make paragraphs, provide breaks for thinking, or to mark transitions, or spaces outside between the works, have become important ways to revisit and rethink existing videos, illuminate themes, or emphasize connections and differences among works. In a way, these juxtapositions reframe and restate the methods at work within each video, mimicking the ways that spaces, gaps, and punctuation intervene and construct relationships between words. I'm fascinated by the possibilities when words are considered outside the page, or when we think of reading in and as a social context. I try to consider the productive interferences, collisions between text and context. Over the last several years, I've had an evolving interest in public spaces and the potentials for readings they may enable. I'm intrigued by the idea of public readings of text, where my work might offer a minor, embodied antidote to the ubiquity of advertising, and to the increasingly privatized breeding habits inculcated via the internet and mobile devices. I remain very curious about what happens when work moves beyond an institutional art space or moves from a personal device into a broader public sphere. And now I'm going to show another set of slides set to music. But this one is kind of maybe more traditional in the sense that it's documentation.
Are we on the air?
Yes, you are.
Hello, Ma. I'd like to hear a new beat on the request line.
Okay, you got it.
as a little bit of a conclusion, I'm going to show some video clips.
I'm ready.
want you to know that you're making me want your taste, baby. 'Cause I can take it. I just want you to feel so. I can hide it, you know how I like it. Get so excited, and I want you to know that you're making me want your taste, baby. 'Cause I can take it. I just want you. I can hide it, you know how I like it. Get so excited, and I want you to know that you're making me want your taste, baby. 'Cause I can take it. I just want you. You make me feel so. 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 You make me feel so.
Thank you for your attention.